It's going to be nice, though. I think getting out of the spotlight and just getting to live my life and do things that I want to do, and not have to sit and I love talking to all of you, but it's going to be nice to not have to sit in front of a microphone, multiple times a week. I really appreciate all of you, but it will be nice to kind of get away and relax for a little bit. And I appreciate everything you all do as well, so I thank you.
You got me down again.
Caitlin Clark's potential departure from the WNBA to play in Europe has shocked fans and analysts alike. While her frustration with the league's physicality and officiating has been well documented, a deeper factor may be at play: the rising racial tensions within the league, specifically tied to Alyssa Thomas's recent accusations. Could this racial controversy be the final push for Clark to explore opportunities overseas? Clark's rookie season was undeniably electric, with her breaking records, lifting the Indiana Fever out of irrelevance, and propelling the WNBA into the spotlight. However, this meteoric rise came at a cost. From facing brutal physical defense to controversial no-calls, like DiJonai Carrington's infamous eye poke, Clark has felt unprotected by the league's officiating. "I feel like I'm getting hammered, and opponents get away with things that other players don't," she said in an interview after the Fever's heartbreaking playoff exit.
Yeah, I think just being competitive is who I am. It's what I've done my whole career. I think at times there's ways I can probably channel it a little bit better, but that's just basketball at the end of the day. That's never gonna change. I'm never gonna lose that. I feel like I'm getting hammered. I don't know. I appreciate Christy getting the tech too.
While the physical toll alone was draining, it's becoming evident that the environment in the WNBA, beyond the court, has been a growing source of frustration for Clark. And nothing exemplifies this more than the recent racial controversy stirred by Alyssa Thomas. After the Fever's playoff elimination, Alyssa Thomas took the stage not to discuss her team's win, but to accuse Caitlin Clark's fan base of racism. Thomas claimed that in her 11-year career, she had never experienced such vitriol, implying that Clark's sudden rise to stardom is somehow tied to racial bias.
Honestly, it's been a lot of nonsense. I think in my 11-year career, I've never experienced the racial comments from the Indiana Fever fan base. We had her face on a serious matter that happened in this world, and it's unacceptable, honestly. And there's no place for it. And
Thomas stated, indirectly linking Clark's popularity to her predominantly white fan base. This wasn't just a comment on trolls or online hate. It was an accusation that essentially targeted the league's new fan base, many of whom had started watching because of Clark's presence. Thomas painted a picture that Clark's success and the attention she received were products of race rather than talent. For Clark, this must have felt like the ultimate slap in the face. After working tirelessly to prove herself on the court, she now found herself at the center of a racial debate she never asked for. It's not difficult to see how this racial narrative, combined with the physical play she's endured, may have been the final straw for Clark. While she's been the face of the WNBA's growth, she's also become its most controversial figure, largely due to factors beyond her control. From Alyssa Thomas's public accusations to other players using racial tensions to stir controversy, Clark is caught in a political and racial firestorm that could be pushing her to leave the league altogether. In her press conference, Clark didn't directly address the racial allegations, but she made it clear she's had enough. "I need a reset. I need to get away from all of this," she said. Many speculate that this reset could involve a move to Europe, where she could focus on her game without the external pressures that have consumed her WNBA experience.
Basketball was something I absolutely loved to do, but there was a lot of other things I had to have done in my life, whether it was school, whether it was emptying the dishwasher or taking out the trash. I had chores, it stunk. I think it'll definitely be a little bit of an adjustment period for myself, not really, having to do that so much. I woke up yesterday and I'm I don't know what I'm gonna really do. So it's gonna be nice though. I think getting out of the spotlight and just getting to live my life and do things that I wanna do, and, not have to sit and I love talking to all of you, but it's gonna be nice to not have to sit in front of a microphone.
Europe could offer Clark the chance to play in a league with a different focus and potentially a more balanced environment, free from the racial tensions that have started to define her WNBA journey. Clark's possible move to Europe isn't just a personal decision, it's a potential disaster for the WNBA. Since joining the league, Clark has transformed the Fever into a money-making machine. Attendance for Indiana games skyrocketed by 400%, ticket sales surged by 60%, and her jersey became the top seller in league history. Her games drew millions of viewers, eclipsing even matchups featuring other WNBA stars like Breanna Stewart and A'ja Wilson. Clark wasn't just a player, she was the league's main attraction. Losing her would be a financial and public relations nightmare for the WNBA. With Clark considering an exit, the league is staring down the barrel of losing its biggest draw and, potentially, its new fan base. But beyond the economic impact, Clark's departure would expose the deep issues that have been festering within the WNBA. Race, politics, and the struggle for equality within a league that has long prided itself on inclusivity. Clark leaving the WNBA would be a signal that the league isn't ready to protect and nurture its top talent. It could also set a dangerous precedent for other players who feel unsupported or unfairly targeted. If the WNBA can't resolve the tension brewing within its ranks, more players may begin to look elsewhere. But for now, all eyes are on Clark. Will she pack her bags and head to Europe? If she does, it won't just be a career shift. It will be a turning point for the WNBA. What do you think? Is Caitlin Clark justified in considering a move to Europe? Let me know in the comments below.
Those guys, they're the racists when really y'all are the racists.
You got me down again.
In the wake of Caitlin Clark's playoff exit, a new scandal is shaking up the WNBA. Alyssa Thomas has been suspended following accusations of a racially motivated assault on Clark during a heated playoff game. This incident has sparked widespread debate, not only over player safety, but also over deeper issues of race within the league. Thomas claims that racial abuse from Clark's fan base has contributed to the ongoing tension, but her actions during the game are raising even more eyebrows. Let's dive into the story. In a pivotal playoff matchup between the Indiana Fever and the Connecticut Sun, emotions were already running high. Clark, fresh off a historic rookie season, was looking to cement her place as one of the WNBA's biggest stars. Meanwhile, Alyssa Thomas, a veteran of the league, was eager to lead the Sun to victory. What should have been a competitive, hard-fought game turned controversial in an instant when a physical altercation broke out. During the game, Thomas was accused of a deliberate and aggressive move toward Clark, which many labeled as a racist assault. The action resulted in an immediate uproar among fans and analysts alike. The Fever were eliminated from the playoffs, but the real story emerging from the game was the alleged racial undertone of Thomas's actions. As details emerged, WNBA officials moved quickly, suspending Alyssa Thomas. The decision was met with mixed reactions from the public. Some praised the WNBA for taking a strong stand against any behavior that could be construed as racially motivated. Others questioned the severity of the punishment, suggesting it was a hasty decision made under public pressure without full evidence. What makes this story even more complicated is that Thomas didn't just face punishment on the court. During the post-game interview, Thomas did not shy away from addressing the issue. Instead of expressing regret or reflecting on her performance, she shifted the focus to the treatment she received from fans. According to Thomas, she had been subjected to racial abuse throughout the series, particularly from Clark's fan base, which she accused of being racist.
It's unacceptable, honestly. And yeah, there's no place for it. And we've been professional throughout the whole entire thing, but I've never been called the things that I've been called on social media, and there's no place for it. You know, we come to play basketball for our job and it's fun, but we don't want to go to work every day and have social media blown up over things like that. It's uncalled for, and something needs to be done, whether it's, them checking their fans or this league checking. There's no time for it anymore.
Thomas's comments lit a firestorm in the media. In her post-game interview, she claimed that throughout her 11-year career, she had never experienced such racially charged abuse until this season. She directly pointed the finger at Clark's supporters, alleging that their admiration for the star player was laced with racial biases.
I think in my 11-year career, I've never experienced the racial comments from the Indiana Fever fan base.
Her words sparked a larger conversation about race and fandom in the WNBA. Fans and analysts alike were left wondering, is there a deeper racial tension brewing in the WNBA? Or was this simply a desperate deflection from a player trying to shift attention away from her playoff performance? This isn't the first time that Clark and Thomas have been at odds. Earlier in the season, during a regular season matchup, tensions boiled over between the two when Thomas set a hard screen that sent Clark to the floor. Though Thomas was penalized for the play, the incident added fuel to an already simmering rivalry. Clark, however, has largely stayed out of the fray. She has not responded directly to Thomas's claims or engaged in the controversy surrounding their previous encounters. Instead, she has focused on her game, letting her historic rookie season speak for itself. This has only further endeared her to her growing fan base, which includes a mix of traditional WNBA fans and newcomers drawn to her record-breaking performances. One of the most intriguing aspects of this story is the media's role in shaping public perception. Some sports pundits have accused the media of fanning the flames by amplifying Thomas's accusations without sufficient evidence.
Instagram and Twitter, these are choices we make. There's an easy way. The league doesn't have to get involved. The Indiana Fever don't have to do something to get you away from social media. Put your phone down. Don't download the apps. Don't engage.
Others argue that these conversations are long overdue, as they bring to light the challenges that Black athletes continue to face in a predominantly white-dominated fan culture. Critics of the media's handling of the situation point out that while Clark has received overwhelming praise and attention for her on-court accomplishments, there has been relatively little coverage of how race factors into her rising stardom.
Caitlin Clark is Kunta Clark. She's the actual slave that everybody else is exploiting for their benefit. Angel Reese included at the top of that list. Now Alyssa Thomas jumps in and says, let me get my piece.
This has led to further conversations about whether the WNBA, and by extension, its media partners, are doing enough to address the racial dynamics at play within the league. The suspension of Alyssa Thomas and the racial allegations have put the WNBA in a difficult position. The league must now address multiple issues: the integrity of the game, the safety of its players, and the deeper racial tensions that have been brought to the surface. With Clark out of the playoffs and Thomas suspended, the WNBA will need to navigate the fallout carefully to avoid alienating fans on either side of the debate. Moving forward, the league may need to reassess how it handles these types of incidents. Are suspensions enough, or should there be further investigations into the broader claims of racial abuse made by Thomas? And how can the WNBA foster a more inclusive environment for all its players and fans? While this story is still unfolding, it's clear that the rivalry between Caitlin Clark and Alyssa Thomas has become symbolic of larger issues within the WNBA. Their on-court clashes and off-court drama have exposed divisions within the fan base and raised questions about how race, gender, and power dynamics intersect in women's professional sports. Clark's rookie season may have ended on a sour note with the Fever's playoff exit, but her legacy is far from complete. As for Alyssa Thomas, her future in the league remains uncertain. Will she be able to recover from this scandal, or will this suspension mark a turning point in her career? Regardless of what happens next, the impact of this incident will be felt for years to come. Both Clark and Thomas are incredibly talented athletes who have helped to raise the profile of the WNBA. But as this situation proves, talent alone is not enough to navigate the complexities of fame, race, and public perception in today's world. The suspension of Alyssa Thomas for a racially charged altercation with Caitlin Clark is more than just a sports story. It's a cultural moment. It highlights the racial dynamics at play within the WNBA and forces fans and players alike to confront uncomfortable truths about fandom, privilege, and representation in women's sports. As the WNBA grapples with these issues, one thing is clear. This controversy is far from over. In the end, both Caitlin Clark and Alyssa Thomas will continue to play key roles in shaping the future of the WNBA. How the league handles their rivalry and the underlying tensions will be a defining moment not only for women's basketball, but for sports as a whole.
Connecticut Sun forward Alyssa Thomas and Indiana Fever coach Christy Sides both called for the abusive comments toward W players to stop during their respective post-game news conferences following Game 2 on Wednesday night. Thomas went as far as to ask the league to step in to do something about the behavior.
You got me down again.
When sports rivalries go beyond the court, they take on a life of their own. The ongoing tension between Alyssa Thomas and Caitlin Clark has become much more than a battle between two star players. It's a flashpoint for discussing race, identity, and the way the WNBA promotes its athletes. But are these conversations deepening the sport, or are they exposing a divide that runs deeper than basketball? Let's break it down. Alyssa Thomas and Caitlin Clark faced off in a highly anticipated playoff series. Clark, the rookie sensation from Iowa, had electrified the league with her dominant performances, and Thomas, a veteran of the WNBA, had built a reputation for toughness and grit. The clash was inevitable, and fans expected fireworks. In a hard-fought game, tensions boiled over when Thomas set a brutal screen on Clark, knocking her to the floor. The incident ignited a flurry of reactions. Clark, known for her resilience, bounced back up, but the fans didn't let it go. Soon, Thomas was facing backlash, accused of playing dirty and taking out her frustrations on the young star. But Thomas didn't take the criticism lightly. She flipped the narrative, claiming that much of the backlash wasn't just about her play, but rooted in something deeper: race.
I think in my 11-year career, I've never experienced the racial comments from the Indiana Fever fan base.
The rivalry between Thomas and Clark isn't just about basketball. It's a lens through which we can examine the complex intersections of race, fandom, and identity in the WNBA. Thomas's accusation that Clark's fans were racially motivated in their criticism opened up a conversation that has long been simmering under the surface of women's sports. Clark, a white player, has become the new face of the WNBA, while most of the league's players, including Thomas, are black. Some have argued that Clark's rapid rise to stardom has been fueled in part by her race, with the league and media placing her front and center as their next marketable superstar. The WNBA, historically focused on inclusion and diversity, suddenly finds itself in a challenging position. How do they promote their brightest new talent while ensuring that long-standing stars like Thomas and Angel Reese don't feel sidelined? Clark's emergence has been meteoric. Her dominance on the court and charisma off it have drawn comparisons to LeBron James and Stephen Curry. Fans are flocking to her games, and ratings are spiking. However, as her star rises, some players, like Thomas, feel the spotlight is being unfairly taken away from the veterans who have long carried the league. Thomas' complaints about racism may stem from more than just frustration over one game. It could represent a broader concern that the WNBA's emphasis on marketability is leaving behind its core values of equity and representation. During the heated playoff matchup, Thomas alleged that Clark's fans had subjected her to racial abuse.
It's unacceptable, honestly. And there's no place for it. And we've been professional throughout the whole entire thing, but I've never been called the things that I've been called on social media, and there's no place for it. You know, we come to play basketball for our job and it's fun, but we don't want to go to work every day and have social media blown up over things like that. It's uncalled for, and something needs to be done, whether it's, you know, them checking their fans or this league checking. There's no time for it anymore.
Whether these claims are true or not, they highlight a tension between the league's marketing strategy and the realities of race relations in the U.S. The question remains, is Clark being unfairly elevated because she fits a certain image, or is this simply the consequence of a new talent eclipsing the old guard? The WNBA has always prided itself on being a progressive league, pushing boundaries on social justice issues and championing diversity. But the rise of Caitlin Clark has created a marketing dilemma. The league desperately needs a star to capture mainstream attention and boost ratings, and Clark fits that bill. She's a phenomenal player with massive crossover appeal, attracting not just traditional WNBA fans, but casual viewers who might otherwise ignore women's basketball. But with this increased focus on Clark comes resentment. Players like Thomas and Reese, both incredibly talented in their own right, wonder why they're not receiving the same level of attention, despite their consistent performances and contributions to the league. The WNBA, in its bid to grow the sport, runs the risk of alienating some of its most important athletes by appearing to favor marketability over merit. Clark's rise is great for the WNBA in the short term. Ratings are up, more people are attending games, and her jersey sales are through the roof. But if her popularity continues to overshadow the contributions of veteran stars like Thomas, it could backfire. Thomas's racial claims could gain traction if other players start to feel the same way, that the league is willing to sideline its black athletes in favor of a new, marketable face. In her post-game comments, Thomas painted a picture of a league divided. "There's no place for racism in our sport," she said, "but it feels like sometimes the league is more interested in selling the next big thing than supporting its players." It's a delicate balance the WNBA must strike. How to market a white star in a predominantly black league without alienating the players who have built the WNBA into what it is today. Clark's talent is undeniable, but is the league doing enough to ensure all players feel valued and respected? As the rivalry between Thomas and Clark continues, it will be interesting to see how the WNBA handles these tensions. Will they continue to push Clark as the face of the league, or will they make a conscious effort to promote all of their stars equally? What's clear is that the dynamics between these players are far from resolved. Clark, for her part, has stayed relatively quiet on the matter, preferring to let her game do the talking. But as the league looks to the future, it will have to contend with these deeper issues of race and identity if it wants to avoid alienating both players and fans. The feud between Caitlin Clark and Alyssa Thomas is more than just a personal rivalry. It's a reflection of larger issues within the WNBA. As the league navigates this tricky terrain, it must find a way to promote its stars, tackle accusations of racial bias, and maintain its identity as a progressive force in sports. How they manage this could shape the future of women's basketball for years to come.